Have you ever wondered why, even though you've slowed down a bit, your body still sends those little signals, urges, sensations, that quiet longing for closeness or release? And yet, something holds you back. Maybe it's discomfort, maybe it's embarrassment, or maybe it's a voice in your head whispering, "That's not for people my age anymore." But what if I told you that's not only false, but that believing it might actually be hurting your health? Hi there, and welcome. If you're a man over 60 or if someone you love, this conversation is one you don't want to miss. Today, we're diving into a topic that's rarely talked about openly, but it's so important to your energy, your mood, and yes, even your heart health. We're talking about masturbation, but more importantly, what happens when you stop doing it, or when you do it in ways that are unconscious, rushed, or disconnected. I'm Dr. Eliana. I'm a physician who's spent years working with older adults, men like you, helping them rediscover vitality, intimacy, and connection in a time of life that should be full of calm, confidence, and self-respect, not shame, not silence. Now, let's be real for a moment. Society doesn't often talk about seniors and sex in the same sentence, let alone seniors and self-pleasure. But let me tell you this, your body hasn't stopped needing connection just because you've crossed 60. Your hormones are still present. Your brain still craves touch. Your heart still seeks warmth. So why should pleasure disappear from your life? Here's what most men don't realize. Completely stopping masturbation, cutting yourself off from touch, release, and pleasure can actually cause more harm than good. I've seen men who believed they were doing the right thing by ignoring those desires only to develop tension, prostate issues, emotional numbness, or even depression over time. You see, just like exercise keeps your muscles strong and sleep refreshes your mind, sexual activity, including masturbation, keeps your hormonal system, your blood vessels, your nervous system, and yes, your prostate healthy. Let me share a real example. I once worked with a 67-year-old man named Rajiv. He hadn't masturbated in over 5 years, not because he had no desire, but because he thought it was inappropriate. Over time, he started experiencing pressure and discomfort in his pelvic area, even some urinary issues. He came to me thinking it was just old age, but what we found was that his prostate was congested. Without regular release, the gland responsible for producing part of the fluid in semen had become inflamed. After just a few weeks of incorporating gentle, mindful self-pleasure into his routine, he was shocked and emotional. Not because of the relief, but because he realized he'd spent years feeling ashamed of something that was completely natural. This is not just about the physical. When a man stops touching himself, when he stops honoring his own body's needs, something begins to change deep inside. His connection to himself weakens. His confidence may fade. It's like turning off a light in a room you used to love, and slowly that room becomes unfamiliar, cold, disconnected. Now, I'm not here to tell you that you must masturbate a certain number of times per week. That's not what this is about. What I'm saying is this: if your body still speaks to you on it, don't ignore it. But Dan, this is very important. How you do it matters. There's a difference between mindless, hurried habits that leave you feeling drained or numb, mindful, respectful practices that leave you feeling more alive, connected, and centered. Too many older men, out of habit, continue using rough, fast methods that worked in their 20s, but now, that kind of touch can actually damage sensitivity and contribute to numbness or erectile fatigue. It's not just about friction, it's about feeling slowness, breath, presence. When you reconnect with your body as a source of comfort, not just stimulation, everything begins to shift. Let me pause here and ask you something. When was the last time you truly enjoyed being in your own body? Not rushed, not guilty, not in secret, but with presence and kindness, because that's what this is really about. Not just sex, not just performance, but presence, connection, healing, and yes, science backs this up. Regular, healthy self-pleasure can increase testosterone levels, improve sleep, reduce stress hormones like cortisol, and enhance circulation, especially to those sensitive areas that many men worry about losing function in. When you ignore this part of yourself, you're not being noble, you're cutting off a vital part of your health. So let's bring it back. What's one simple thing you can do today? Just this: begin to listen again. Pay attention to your body without shame. If there's sensation, explore it gently. Not to finish fast, not to get it over with, but to be with yourself again. That's where healing begins. And this isn't just about you. When a man feels connected to his own body, his mood improves, his relationships become more open, and he starts showing up for life with a quiet strength that people around him can feel. So, if you've been thinking, I guess those days are behind me, I'm here to tell you, they're not. Your body is still yours, your pleasure is still valid, and your well-being still matters deeply. So, now that we've gently opened that door to honest, shame-free conversation, let's take a deeper breath together and step through it. Because what we're really talking about isn't just physical release, it's about emotional connection. It's about dignity, and it's about recognizing that the older version of you still deserves joy, closeness, and feeling good in your own skin. I want to talk to you now about something most men never hear from their doctor. And that's how prolonged abstinence, completely cutting off sexual expression, especially self-touch, can affect your emotional and hormonal health. Not only does this often lead to physical tension, it can also stir up a kind of quiet sadness, a low-level fog that many men chalk up to just getting older. But it's not just age, it's disconnection, and it matters. Let me explain it. Like this, think of your sexual energy like water in a pipe. If it flows regularly, even just in gentle amounts, the system stays healthy. There's movement, pressure, cleanliness. But if you shut it off completely, over time the system starts to rust. That rust might show up as reduced sensitivity, a drop in libido, or more worryingly, as frustration, irritability, or loneliness that has no clear cause. It's like you're missing something, but you can't quite name it. I once had a patient named Martin. He was 72, a retired school principal, proud, private, very proper. He came to see me because he said he was feeling off. No motivation, low mood, poor sleep. His blood work was decent, nothing alarming. But when we talked deeper, really talked, he admitted something that surprised even him. He hadn't touched himself in over a decade, not once, out of guilt, out of habit, out of a belief that it was childish, unnecessary, even wrong. And when I told him, Martin, that part of your body hasn't gone anywhere, it's just been waiting for you, he got quiet, really quiet. Then he said, but isn't it too late to start again? And the answer is no. It's never too late to start reconnecting. And once he began approaching himself with curiosity instead of guilt, tenderness instead of pressure, the fog began to lift. Within a month, his energy returned. His face was brighter. He even told me he was playing the piano again after years of ignoring it. That's the thing, this isn't just about sex. This is about vitality. And you might wonder, but what about the risks? You've probably heard myths like too much masturbation causes weakness, prostate issues, or that it's addictive. The truth is, those risks only appear when it becomes compulsive, rushed, or is used to escape emotion, instead of process it. That's why I talk so much about mindful self-pleasure. When you approach your body like a friend instead of a machine, when you slow down, breathe, and actually feel you're practicing a form of healing. You're sending a message to your nervous system. I'm safe, I'm still alive, and I still matter. Let's talk about testosterone for a moment. This hormone doesn't just impact sexual drive, it's also key for your mood, your energy, your bones, your muscles, even your memory. And studies have shown that regular, healthy, sexual activity, including masturbation, can help regulate testosterone levels in older men. It's like your body says, oh, he's still engaged, still present. Let's keep the system running. And it's not just testosterone. When you give your body releases, especially from a place of intention, it triggers a cascade of positive chemicals. Dopamine lifts your mood. Oxytocin brings a sense of calm and connection. Endorphins ease tension and discomfort. This isn't fantasy, it's biology. But here's where things get tricky for some men. Over time, if you've only associated masturbation with porn or quick release, it can actually work against you. The brain becomes overstimulated, but the body gets undertouched. It's like constantly revving an engine, but never taking it on the road. Eventually, something wears out. That's why I recommend something I call returning to the body. No screens, no pressure to perform, just presence, just breath, just curiosity. It might feel strange at first. After all, most men were never taught how to be gentle with themselves. Many were raised with silence around touch. To ignore their emotions, to power through discomfort. But now, in this season of your life, you have an incredible opportunity to unlearn that silence, to trade guilt for grace, and to finally feel at home in the body that's carried you through decades. One thing I often share with my patients is this: aging doesn't have to mean shrinking away from pleasure. It can mean expanding into it wisely, slowly, respectfully. Just because your body looks different than it did at 30 doesn't mean it's any less worthy of love or joy. In fact, your body now has wisdom. It's more sensitive in some ways, more patient, more tuned in if you allow it to be. So, if you've been avoiding this part of yourself out of fear, embarrassment, or habit, I want you to hear this with all the compassion in the world. You are not broken. You are not wrong. You are not too late. It begins with one moment of presence, one breath, one hand resting gently, without expectation. One quiet acknowledgement: I'm still here, I still feel, I still matter. And what happens next? That's your journey, your rediscovery, your return. Now, let's talk about something that's harder to notice but deeply important: how this part of your life connects with your heart. Not just the physical heart that beats in your chest, but your emotional heart. The part of you that wants to be close, to be loved, to be seen. Because as much as self-pleasure is physical, it's also emotional, especially in your 60s, 70s, and beyond. A lot of older men I speak to aren't just struggling with low energy or trouble down there, struggling with a kind of emotional numbness. They say things like, "I just feel flat," or "I don't laugh like I used to," or "I miss the feeling of being touched." That's not weakness, that's honesty, and that's where healing begins. When you've gone months or years without intimacy, not just with a partner, but even with yourself, it starts to shut something off inside. You stop looking in the mirror. You stop caring how your body feels. You start to believe that pleasure is for the young, or for people in relationships, or for men who didn't let themselves go. But none of that is true. Every man, matter his age, his weight, his mobility, or his circumstances, deserves to feel connected to his body and his emotional self. Let me share a story here. A man named Shyam came to my clinic last year. He was 68, divorced for 15 years, and he told me very bluntly, "I haven't been touched by anyone, including myself, in over a decade. I just figured that chapter of my life was over." As we talked more, he shared that he missed the closeness not just with others, but with himself. He missed the feeling of being alive in his skin. So we started simple. I asked him to begin with something he hadn't done in years, to spend 5 minutes each evening without distractions, just placing his hands gently over his heart and stomach, breathing, not even touching, sexually just touching with care. That one practice started changing everything. Within a month, his anxiety dropped, his posture changed, his confidence returned, and eventually, so did his sexual interest. Not because he forced it, because he started listening to his body again. That's what most men don't realize. Sexual energy isn't just about erections or performance. It's about aliveness, that spark in your eyes, that feeling of being grounded in your body. That sense that you're not just existing, you're living. When that energy goes untended, like a fire left alone too long, it dims. But it doesn't die. It's still in you. It just needs breath, attention, kindness now. Some men worry, what if I try and nothing happens? That's okay. This isn't about pressure. You don't have to force arousal. In fact, chasing performance too hard can backfire. What we're talking about is something much deeper: reconnection, slowness, curiosity, and yes, there are physical benefits too. When you engage in regular, healthy self-touch, especially without guilt or urgency, you increase blood flow, improve vascular function, and keep those vital nerves active. Think of it like doing gentle stretches. If you never move a part of your body, it stiffens. The same goes for your sexual system. Without movement, sensitivity drops. With loving attention, it returns. We also can't ignore the link between isolation and poor health. Studies have shown that men who experience prolonged touch deprivation, no hugs, no closeness, no intimacy, are at significantly higher risk for depression, heart disease, and even early mortality. It's not just about sex, it's about connection. And if you don't have a partner right now, self-touch becomes even more important. It's a form of self-care, a way of saying, I am still here, I still deserve love. There's one more thing I want to highlight, and it's something most men keep buried deep inside: shame. So many men over 60 grew up in a time when masturbation was seen as dirty, childish, or even immoral. Some were told by parents, teachers, or even doctors that it would make them go blind, weak, or mentally unstable. That messaging sticks, gets internalized, and decades later, it still whispers in the back of your mind. But I want to tell you this with as much clarity and compassion as I can. There is no shame in self. There's only what you bring to it. If you approach it with care, with softness, with awareness, it becomes a form of healing, a conversation between your hands and your heart, a way to remind yourself, I am not done, I am still worthy. So, if you're sitting there wondering if it's selfish or silly or pointless, I want to offer a new perspective. What if this is not about trying to relive your 30s? What if this is about finally giving yourself what you were always meant to have: a kind, respectful, conscious relationship with your own body? You don't need anyone else's permission. Not mine, not society's, not even your younger selves. All you need is the willingness to begin, to sit quietly, to breathe, to place your hand gently on your chest or stomach and say, this is me, and I deserve to feel. Because you do, you always have. Let's take this conversation a step further into the space where your body, your mind, and your emotions meet. Because here's the truth, most men don't hear often enough. It's not just about touching your body, it's about listening to it. Especially after 60, your body is constantly speaking to you. It tells you when you're tired, when you're lonely, when you're craving closeness. Not just sexually, but emotionally. But as we age, especially as men, we're often taught to tune all that out, to be strong, to be silent, to push through. What happens? Disconnection. That's the real danger, not just the absence of sex or self-pleasure, but the disconnection from yourself. And that disconnect can lead to real problems. It can affect your mood, your memory, even your sleep. When men stop engaging with their own bodies, a slow fading begins. Your testosterone dips, your circulation gets sluggish, your confidence starts to wither. Not just in the bedroom, but in how you show up every day. You might start avoiding mirrors, avoiding intimacy, avoiding touch altogether. And the longer it goes on, the harder it is to find your way back. But here's something powerful, something I've seen in so many of my older patients. The moment a man decides to reconnect with his body, everything changes. Not all at once, not magically, but meaningfully. It starts with sensation. When you begin to touch yourself with patience, not rushing, not judging, your brain begins to remember. It says, ah, this is me. Neural pathways that have gone quiet begin to light up again. Blood vessels that were underused start to open. Hormones begin to balance. You become alive again, in the most grounded, beautiful sense of the word. And no, this doesn't mean you have to perform like you did in your 20s. That's not the goal. The goal isn't pressure. The goal is presence. One of the most underrated benefits of masturbation in older age is how it helps maintain pelvic health. Your pelvic floor muscles, those deep muscles around your hips and lower abdomen are responsible for bladder control, core stability. When you engage in conscious, healthy self-touch, these muscles are gently activated. That stimulation improves tone, circulation, and coordination, helping you avoid issues like erectile dysfunction and even incontinence. It's like going to the gym, just a quieter, more private kind of workout, and it doesn't take long. Just 5 to 10 minutes of mindful touch a few times a week can make a huge difference in how you feel. Now I want to bring up something important: numbness. A lot of older men tell me, I try to touch myself, but I just don't feel much anymore. And it's not just physical, it's emotional too. The body feels dull, the spark is gone. That can be heartbreaking, but it's also fixable. Numbness is often a signal not that something is broken, but that something's been neglected. Think of your body like a garden. If you stop watering it, the soil dries. But that doesn't mean it can't bloom again. It just needs care, a little consistency, a little trust. So if you're someone who's felt numb, whether physically, emotionally, or sexually, please know this. Your capacity for pleasure hasn't disappeared, it's just buried under years of stress, silence, or maybe even shame. But with slow, consistent attention, it can return. I've seen it happen again and again. Now let's talk a moment about intimacy, not just with yourself, but with your partner, if you have one. So many couples in their 60s, 70s, and beyond fall into the habit of disconnecting physically. It's not intentional, it just happens. Life gets busy, health issues arise, energy dips, and before you know it, it's been months or years since you've shared closeness. But here's what I want you to hear. Reconnecting doesn't have to start with your partner. It can start with you. When you reclaim a connection with your own body, when you feel more confident, more relaxed, more alive, that energy begins to radiate outward. Your partner feels it. They see it in your eyes, in your touch, in your presence. Self-pleasure is not a replacement for intimacy. It's because how can you truly connect with someone else if you're disconnected from yourself? One patient I worked with, Mr. Rajan, age 72, told me something beautiful after starting a daily 5-minute self-connection routine. He said, "I didn't know how much I missed myself." And the beautiful part, his wife noticed the shift, not just in bed, but in how he hugged her, how he spoke to her, how he smiled more. That small habit of honoring his body had ripple effects throughout his whole life. That's the power we're talking about here. Not just biology, but belonging. Not just mechanics, but meaning. So I encourage you, right now, to ask yourself, gently, not critically, not judgmentally, when was the last time I connected with my body with kindness? When was the last time I allowed myself to feel not just stimulation, but presence? And what might happen if I gave myself that gift again? No one's watching, no one's grading. This is for you, a practice of self-respect, a return to wholeness. Body is not a machine. It's not an old car that gets rusty and forgotten. It's your home, the one you've lived in all these years, and it still wants to serve you, to support you, to help you feel joy, strength, connection, and that journey starts with a single, simple choice to come back home. You've made it to this part of the conversation, and that tells me something important. You care. You care about your health, your body, your energy, and your connection. And that matters more than anything. Because this isn't just about one habit, it's about the bigger picture. It's about reclaiming your life, your joy, and your confidence. Now, I promised you something simple and powerful to help you reconnect with your body, a ritual I call the Golden Protocol. It's not a pill, it's not a product, it's a practice. One you can do in just 5 to 7 minutes a day, and over time, it can shift how you feel, not only physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and sexually. Here's how it works. It begins with breath. Before you even touch your body, sit down somewhere quiet. Place a hand over your heart or your lower belly and take a slow breath in and out. Just that, one breath, then another. This tells your nervous system, I'm safe, I'm home, I'm listening, because your body will never open up if it feels rushed or judged. Next, bring your attention to touch, but not in a goal-driven way, not to get somewhere, just to explore, gentle, slow, conscious. It's not about climax, it's about connection. That's where the healing begins. You can start with your chest, arms, thighs, areas that may not get much attention. Notice the texture of your skin, the warmth, the pulse underneath. Then, if it feels right, explore the more intimate areas of your body. But again, not to achieve anything, simply to be present, feel, breathe, acknowledge. And here's the secret. Ingredient: intention. Most men I work with have been stuck in years, sometimes decades, of disconnected, mindless self-stimulation. Maybe it started as a stress release, maybe out of habit, or even just to fall asleep. But what that does over time is train the body to disconnect from real feeling, from real intimacy. That's where issues like erectile dysfunction, numbness, and low libido sneak in. But when you bring intention to your touch, you shift everything. You say to your body, I'm not using you, I'm honoring you. You say to your heart, you're not alone anymore. And you say to your inner self, I'm here and I matter. I've seen men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, who believed they were done rediscover the joy of arousal, not just sexual, but emotional arousal. The feeling of being alive, of looking in the mirror and not just seeing wrinkles and gray hairs, but seeing power, dignity, and warmth. And this practice doesn't just help you, it helps your relationships, your partner, your children, your friends, because when you are grounded in yourself, You show up differently in the world. You're more loving, less reactive, more at peace. Now, I want to take a moment to address a very common belief. The idea that sexual health doesn't matter anymore after a certain age, that it's selfish, shameful, or irrelevant. That's a lie. Sexual health isn't just about sex. It's about hormones, blood flow, sleep quality, prostate function, mental clarity, emotional joy. It's about connection. And yes, it's also about pleasure, something every human being deserves throughout their entire life, not just in youth. In fact, research continues to show that men who maintain healthy sexual expression as they age have stronger hearts, lower inflammation, and better moods. They live longer, love deeper, and walk through the world with a quiet kind of confidence that doesn't come from ego but from self-knowing. And if you've felt disconnected or unsure, or maybe even ashamed of your desires or habits, please hear me now. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. You are not too old. You are not past your prime. You are a human being still growing, still feeling, still deserving. And if no one has said this to you in a long time, let me say it now. Your body is sacred. Your pleasure is valid. And your journey back to wholeness begins with the smallest, kindest acts of self-care. So, what now? You don't need to change your whole life overnight. Just begin where you are. Maybe tonight, before bed, instead of falling into the same routine, you pause, you breathe, you bring your hand to your chest, your belly, your thighs, and say, I'm here, and I care. That's it. That's the spark. That's the beginning. And as you continue, you'll find that self-pleasure, far from being selfish or indulgent, is actually one of the most healing things you can offer yourself. It's a return to your body, a return to joy, a return to you. Thank you for being brave enough to explore this topic, for being open, for being curious, for honoring yourself with your attention. If this video spoke to you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What resonated with you most? What would you like me to explore further? Your voice matters here, and if you found this helpful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. We're building a community of wise, vibrant, fully alive seniors, and your presence is what makes it complete. Remember, my friend, age doesn't diminish you, it deepens you. You are still powerful, you are still vital, and you are still worthy of love, touch, and joy. Here's to living your fullest, most connected life, fat every age. With care, Dr. Eliana.